Oh yeah, rolling.
Test 1
everywhere.
2. Test 1 2. All right, yeah. I've got level.
You just want to make sure your phone is on full volume.
Yes.
Your air conditioner's not cranked up all the way. Can you move the mic closer to your air conditioner and please crank it all the way?
Hold on a second. I have to plug in the chainsaw.
Well, that's right. Welcome to this episode of the podcast.
Sound great. Oh,
Ralph Staple. He comes on.
the note.
He he starts the episode the way we're supposed to end it. But anyway, I just want to welcome everyone who's listening. Thank you for being here. We put out episodes every week. They alternate between guest interviews and these Daily Goody episodes. And the Daily Goody is a little daily blog post I write on podcastengineeringschool.com. And they're little tidbits of information. And so these episodes, the Daily Goody episodes of this podcast, is where I sort of quickly go over like 10 or 11 or 12 of the Daily Goody posts. So it's a lot of different topics. We kind of go through them quick. It's really fun. I thought we can get Ralph in here because Ralph is awesome. Ralph M. Rivera. And I kind of just wanted to record with you, Ralph, really.
Can you do me a favor? I hate looking like a fool. Can you go back to every prior episode of Podcast Engineering School and edit out the sound great at the end and just edit it into the beginning so that mine doesn't look like it's wrong?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me make a note of that.
Yeah, that's not a lot of work.
So,
I've been reading the Daily Goodies. I'm sure I can get that done pretty quickly.
By the way, next week's episode with Chris Williams is redonkulous. And last week's with Bandrew Scott. Hello. I don't know.
From his secret bunker.
That's right. Is it wrong to like your own show that much? Although I don't listen to the full episodes after I record them ever. I don't listen to the whole thing from front to back. Do you do that with your episodes, Ralph?
I do. Well,
yeah.
Carolyn edits most of our episodes, so she will listen to the full episode before it gets released, and I will listen to most episodes in full before they get released.
So just to remind everyone, this is the Podcast Engineering Show. As I mentioned, we go really deep into the audio engineering aspects of podcast production, and I just love doing this, and we're going to be at PodFest, we're going to be at NAB, Podcast Movement. We're going to be at all the shows. So, all right, let's get into these Daily Goodies and let's pick Ralph's brain. I feel like I'm forgetting something, Ralph. Like I did the intro.
Aren't you forgetting the sponsorship?
Well, all right, maybe.
Considering they're paying the bills.
Yeah. All right.
I see the lights are flickering on and off, so we got to get to the sponsor to keep the lights on.
All right. Well, let's talk about Focusrite. 3rd generation Scarlett interfaces. That's right. I have one.
Wow.
Ralph, yours is a 2nd gen, right?
I've got a 6i6, and actually my 6i6, what makes it special is that it was sold to me personally by Dan Hughley, and that's actually very true.
Right? There you go. So Dan, he should get a commission for that or something. I hope he gets something. All right. Well, the Scarlett interfaces within the last few months came out with the 3rd generation. So everyone knows the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2, right? That's like probably one of the most popular interfaces on the planet. Really good quality, good sounding mic preamps, and it's just it priced really well. I think it's like what I think the Gen 3s now are $160, $159 for a 2 mic input interface. Really good quality. I've liked Focusrite my whole life, and since being back in the studios and stuff. And now the 3rd gen interfaces, the Scarlett series, they have this air button, which is kind of cool for some microphones. It adds like this, high frequency air. That's what they call it. And it's sort of like clarity, but it's kind of like smoothness. It's kind of like butter. Is that how you would describe it, Ralph?
Keep it clean. Keep it clean.
All right. Well, anyway, the air feature's awesome. And so if you or anyone you know wants a good interface with 2 mic inputs and all that, obviously the Focusrite 2i2. But I don't just want to focus on the focus. Oh, God. I don't just want to mention the 2i2. They have other versions like Ralph, your 6i6. They have the 18i20, and they're all Focusrite Scarlett series. So They have a whole line depending on how many inputs you want.
One of the things I've been doing recently is I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos of people who are in like various audio engineering roles here in the Nashville area because I really want to soundproof my room a little bit better. And every time I watch one of these videos, they always have Focusrite equipment, which isn't the interesting part. The interesting part is that Focusrite makes all kinds of different hardware for all different kinds of usages. So I always tell people when they say that they're going to buy like the 2i2, I'm like, well, the 2i2 is a great device, but Focusrite makes a lot of different devices, and there might be a better fit for you.
Yeah, exactly. So the Focusrite Scarlett 3rd Gen series, awesome. Check it out. Okay, so now let's get to these daily goodies. The first one, how long? Oh, wait, it's from November 22nd, 2019. And I actually like being like, was it like 2 months behind? Because so here's the thing. You can get these daily goodies in your email. You can sign up. You can get them every day in your email or like a weekly roundup, and just go to podcastengineeringschool.com and sign up for that. But it's cool because you'll get the email, and then 2 months later, it's reinforcement, Ralph M. Rivera. It's me reinforcing these concepts. Wow. What a concept.
Now, I'm special. I get mine hand-delivered. You fly from Colorado Springs to Franklin, Tennessee every day to hand-deliver the Daily Goody to me.
Oh, God. Yeah, I throw it on your porch like a paper boy or something.
Yeah.
All right, how long should it take to complete post-production for one episode? All right, that's the title of this Daily Goody from November 22nd. How long should it take to complete post-production for one episode? Well, Ralph, you know the answer. It depends. 3
years. No, I'm wrong? Edit that out.
Most people can do it in less than 3 years, but obviously the answer is that it depends, right? Depends on a lot of things, and I list these in the post. The length of the episode, the number of participants, the number of different segments or transitions, the thoroughness of detailed editing, the smoothness or clumsiness of a participant's speaking habits. Right, there's been people, like some people you have to edit.
What? Huh? What?
Yeah.
What? Huh?
Like some people, they just trip all over themselves, and it just takes longer to edit, right? So anyway.
Let me ask you a question. Riddle me this, Chris Curran. One of the rules of thumb that I always tell people is that there's a 2x factor on editing. So if you have a let's say 1 hour episode, it's usually going to take about 2 hours to get that edited and polished, assuming everything has gone smoothly. Well, what do you think of that 2x?
So again, it depends on a lot of things. That's possible. You know, I've heard from other people too that like if it's a 1 hour episode, you can sort of plan on 4 hours of post-production total. Now that total post-production includes editing, but it also might include mixing and tagging and posting, right? So
you're saying a 1-to-4 ratio?
Overall, I've heard that before, yeah. Or 1-to-3. It depends, you know, again, it depends on so many things. But yeah, I mean, so each of us, you got to basically figure it out for yourself. Like over time, like when you start producing podcasts for yourself, like just keep track of the time. Like literally note down when you start and when you finish doing things and time it out. See how long it takes. And then it's just good to know. It's not, you know, it's just good to know, and it's good to know when you're getting quicker at it and all that. So there you go. All right. It depends. That's the answer to the first one, Ralph. Let's move on. Okay. This one is an interesting post. And okay, the title is Tactics versus Sound Quality when Producing Podcast Audio. So tactics versus sound quality. And what I meant by this was, you know, you see online, especially in people asking questions online, and there's podcast editors and there's podcasters, and everyone's talking about podcasting and recording audio and stuff. And a lot of the questions are like, how do I, you know, split this clip, or how do I do this? And the answer is like, oh, well, just go to the file menu and choose this or whatever. Like it's a tactical question, right? It's a hey, where's this command in the menu? And then someone can tell you. And here's the thing, when you're producing podcasts, you need to know some of that stuff, right? You need to know where things are in the menus. But there's another side to production, and I'm calling it sound quality. So there's the tactics, which is, hey, how do I split this clip in half, or how do I render this episode, right? Just it's simple questions that have a concrete answer. And then there's the sound quality part of producing audio, which is like, how does it sound? Like, does it sound nice? Is it mixed well? Right, Ralph?
Yeah, although I would add another element to that, the concrete part that you're talking about. I think that anytime an audio engineer or an editor, anytime that they're going up into the menus, I think that's a really good opportunity to set up good keyboard shortcuts. There's a particular editor that I'm not going to name names, so I'm just going to use a made-up name. Let's call it Dindenberg. They have a lot of, in the past, they've had a lot of things where you have to kind of go up into the menu and you can't use keyboard shortcuts. And I use a Wacom tablet. I know you don't particularly like those, but the Wacom tablet allows you to create all kinds of macros within your DAW to really get some of these tactics, executed quickly. And if there's no keyboard shortcut counterpart, then that's a real problem. I think that when it comes to tactics, you should always, all editors, all audio engineers should consider supplementing their DAW with something like a Wacom tablet or a Stream Deck, or even if you've got a MacBook Pro, using the touch bar on the top. Because the thing that really kind of made me cringe was when you said go up to the file menu and click. Like, as soon as you start doing that, you're losing time. You want to have macros and keyboard shortcuts and all kinds of things.
Great point. And so my overall point with this post was that you can know where all the commands are, but then the episode can still sound like garbage. So you kind of have to have both. You have to know where things are, and you have to make it sound good. All right, next Daily Goody. This is from November 24th. Optimal loudness to monitor at when mixing. So how loud should you crank the speakers or your headphones when you're mixing, Ralph? That's the question.
I think this is a trick question because and you tell me, doesn't your proximity to your speakers also influence this?
Well, of course. But what I'm talking about is how loud, perceived loudness in your ears, right? So I could put a speaker 100 feet away. I could blast the crap out of it, and maybe it's 100 dB. But then I could have then I could have my phone 3 inches from my ear and cranked up, and that could also be 100 dB into my ear.
All right. So all right, I'll buy that, because that was my only beef with this article, was that depending on your distance from the speakers, that might impact the decibel level. But you're talking about the effective decibel level where you are, regardless of where the speakers are positioned.
Exactly. Yeah. How loud should you listen at? And
all right.
So the Fletcher Munson curve, which I know a lot of podcast engineering school alumni actually have a tattoo of the Fletcher Munson curve on their foreheads and faces, because it's that important. All right, maybe not.
Actually, my ringtone on my phone is actually you saying that.
Oh God. So all right, so when you listen to audio at different volume levels, your ears perceive the frequency spectrum differently. So when you listen at really low volumes, you don't get much clarity. And when you listen at high volumes, you might get too much harshness or clarity. So the Fletcher Munson curve, and we don't really have time to get into all that, but basically 84 dB is the answer, where the perceived frequency spectrum of your ears is the flattest and most accurate. So, and one thing you can do, by the way, a new semester of podcast engineering school started last night, and we went over the Fletcher Munson curve. And here's the thing: they make apps for the phone that you can download, and it measures the loudness of wherever you are. So it's like an SPL meter, sound pressure level meter, and you can just run the app, and you can hold the app, and you can play your speakers, and it'll tell you how loud it is. 70 dB, 75, and then so what you can do is use one of these apps to figure out how loud your speakers have to be for it to be about 84 dB, and then that's a good standard listening volume.
Did you know that the new iPhone will also passively measure the decibel level at any point during while you're using your phone, and it will actually send you an alert if the decibel level where you are currently located is actually going to cause potential harm to your ears.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's pretty cool.
So don't stand in front of an aircraft with the engine roaring.
Oh, man. All right, let's move
By the
on.
way,
Next.
big ups.
Sorry, go
big
ahead.
props to including a reference to one of my favorite books, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, in that article, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Oh, well, that's because the answer was 42, but the answer to the loudness where the frequencies are the flattest is 84, which is double.
Right.
Okay,
See that? It always comes back.
All right, next Daily Goodies from November 25th. Sound devices Mix Pre 6. Oh, man, the Mix Pre 6. And they also make a Mix Pre 3 and a Mix Pre 10T. These are all sort of portable recorders / interfaces / mixers, and they're really high quality. My main audio interface is a Mix Pre 6, and of course I record audio on there as well, sort of as a backup. And they're really great interfaces, really great mic preamps. They're not cheap. Like the Mix Pre 6, I think, is about $900, and it has 4 XLR inputs and another 2 inputs. So
I hate when you say that.
What?
Hate when you say that.
What?
I hate when you say it's not cheap, because it implies that it's expensive, and it's not expensive. It's just you're paying for what you get. It's a very, very good device, and you're going to pay for that quality. So I don't think it's cheap, and I don't think it's expensive. I think it's priced for where it needs to be.
Yes,
there you go.
I
I've
agree.
reprimanded you.
Okay.
All right. I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
throw 2 questions at you. Ready?
Yeah.
2 questions. Number 1, what is the killer feature on the Mix Pre 6? And question number 2, what is the feature on the Mix Pre 6 that sounds great, but kind of really isn't in practical usage? Go.
Well, I don't know. The best thing about it is just the overall quality of every aspect of it, and that it's portable too. So I know
So you're
I'm
wrong.
not good at answering these types of questions.
So the answer to number 1 is the 32-bit recording.
Well, but see, I have a first gen Mix Pre 6. I don't think I can. I don't have 32-bit recording.
Oh, I thought this goodie was about the current generation of the Mix Pre 6.
No, they came out right after this Daily Goodie.
All right, well, let's all pretend that this is the current generation.
They're really the
killer
same
feature to
thing.
me-
The second generation, they just added 32-bit recording and they added a couple other small things. That's all.
So a friend of the show and former guest on the show, Curtis Judd, he actually did a sample of the 32-bit technology, and it's pretty amazing. If you do a search on YouTube for Curtis Judd Mix Pre 6 32-bit, you'll see him actually using the 32-bit recording and what kinds of benefits you can get. And it's amazing. It's the thing of science fiction. It's just ridiculous. But number 2, the second question was, what feature is probably not good for podcasters, practically speaking? And it's the one where it auto balances and ducks does some auto ducking on the channels, so that when one person is talking, the other microphone is automatically ducked down. I forget what the name of it. They have a clever little name for it.
Yeah, isn't it the auto mixer, sort of?
The auto mix. I think that's what it's called. Yeah. But the challenge with that is that it auto mixes down to a single track. So the feature in and of itself sounds great, but you can't have separate tracks. You're going to end up with a final, with one stereo mix of all of your tracks. So I think in practical application, it sounds great, but I don't know that on a day-to-day use basis that it would be real useful.
Yeah, I agree with that. Exactly. Okay, let's move on.
And if I'm wrong on that, Bandrew told me that about the single track. So if I'm wrong on that, it's Bandrew's fault.
There you go. Throw my previous guest under the bus. Okay.
That's right.
Next one from November 26th. Hardwood floors versus carpeting. Hardwood floors versus carpeting. Well, there's kind of a big difference, right? And it's all about the reflections in the room. The more absorbing types of surfaces you have in a room, it will diminish the amount of reflections in the room. It'll absorb them. And so that's why carpeting will absorb reflections, where hardwood floors they'll just bounce all over the room like crazy. And also furniture plays a part in that. Curtains, other thing like bookshelves, like weird, odd shaped surfaces with a lot of different surfaces on them. Those all help deflect the sound and diffuse the sound. So it's hardwood floors are just rough. If anyone ever wants to record and there's hardwood floors, it's just going to sound like they're 45 feet down a hallway. I mean, pretty much. Right, Ralph? You don't have Ralph, you have hardwood floors? You do?
I do not in my office now. Currently, I don't. But that video that I mentioned earlier of the guy in Nashville who redid his room, he did some pretty amazing sound panels and like overhead panels with sound dampening materials. But one of the things that he did, and I'll give you the link for the show notes, one of the things he did is he kept the hardwood floors because he felt with all of the dampening that he was doing everywhere else, the acoustical qualities of the room were better with hardwood floors than carpeting. And he's like a hardcore engineer, like at your level. So that level of understanding how sound reverberates in the room is, above my pay grade. But it was pretty interesting that he picked hardwood floors after investing tens of thousands of dollars in all of this other acoustical treatments.
Yeah. The reason for that is because when you produce music, when you record audio for music, like you don't really want a dead room. You do want a little bit of reflections in a room, but you want the right kind of reflections. So what he did was he engineered it in such a way where he dampened it for the most part, but the room has still a little bit of life, a little bit of reflections in there. That's for music. For podcasting or radio, it's not really relevant because in podcasting and radio, you just want the direct sound of a person's voice. Like you don't want them to sound like they're in Studio A at the Hit Factory in New York City or something, right? Like you just want the direct capture. That's it. So for music, what he did is great, but and it would work for podcasting. But anyway, that's why he did it that way.
Pretty interesting, Curran.
Yeah. So audio, next Daily Goody, Audio Hijack, which by the way is Mac only. So Audio Hijack is a great application for Mac only, which captures all kinds of different audio. It can capture anything on your computer, any other application like Chrome. You want to just capture the audio from Chrome? It can do it. You want to capture audio from Skype? It can do it. Capture audio from FaceTime, and it can capture audio from all these other apps and record them separately on their own track. So like I actually have a template in Audio Hijack which has, Chrome, Firefox, Skype, FaceTime, Safari, which I never use because Safari is just garbage when it comes to audio. So I can actually capture audio from all those different places on my one machine and record them all on separate tracks, which is great for post-production because then you can produce them all, mix individual tracks later and have a lot more control over it. So that's Audio Hijack.
I have something to add to my wish list.
Yeah.
I would love to see you do a video on Audio Hijack because I installed it and maybe I just gave it a cursory glance, but I felt that it was a little difficult to get into. So maybe you can do a video series and prove me wrong.
Well, here's the thing. So I actually made a pretty in-depth tutorial of Audio Hijack for the Podcast Engineering School students and alumni. So since you are an alumni, you can go into your student area, you can find that and watch it. It's like, I don't know, it's like 30 or 40 minutes, but I talk about how I use Audio Hijack and Loopback, because Loopback is another application from the same company that makes Audio Hijack, and that way you can create all these virtual instruments. It's really amazing, but you're right. It's not easy to wrap your head around because even me with Audio Hijack, it took me like weeks to figure out how I wanted to route everything but now I have it down and it's crazy. I have like a million of these little audio blocks and audio's going everywhere, but it's great though. It's really good, very stable too. Knock on wood. Yeah.
By the way, I have there's an app that comes with every Focusrite device called Focusrite Control.
Yes. And
I don't know how to compare the routing of Focusrite Control and Audio Hijack, but I do know that in Focusrite you have the ability to route anything that is going into the Focusrite, and I think some other things. I don't think you can get as granular as just picking your browser or just picking Skype, but there is a level of control as to where the ins and outs all end up inside of Focusrite control.
Yes, that's true. And I just read that where you can actually create virtual instruments in Focusrite Control. Now, I don't know if that's only with the Gen 3 interfaces. I'm a little confused about that. If any of you listening know a little more on that, just comment if you have any more information on that. But yeah, the Focusrite Control software is supposed to be pretty good. I actually haven't used it because, I don't really need to, so... All right, let's move on. The next daily goodie. Oh, this was on Thanksgiving. This was my post. Much gratitude to everyone producing good audio. And I really want to stress this. I appreciate anyone and everyone in the world who takes time to produce audio that is pleasing to listen to. I mean, I know that sounds so simple, but I really appreciate it. It really makes a big difference, because and you know it. Each of you knows this because when you go to either a YouTube channel or you put on a podcast that sounds terrible, it's hard to listen to. So for all of you out there producing good audio, I am really grateful to you. The world is grateful to you. I mean, I always love the distinction that you know how people say, "Oh, you don't need to edit, just record and put it out." I mean, there's some big name people in podcasting who still do that to this day. And it's but editing, if you edit an hour-long conversation, even if you edit it down to 57 minutes, right? If you cut out 3 minutes of just fluff and spacing and ums and garbage, you're actually producing a better experience for so many people in the world, right? It's like that ripple effect.
Yeah. And by the way, we should probably point out that to those people who do not produce good audio, you're dead to us. No. In keeping with the Thanksgiving, I did go through a little bit of a pruning effort on my podcatcher. And I actually got rid of a bunch of podcasts that I thought were kind of good, but I got rid of them because the sound quality was so terrible. And I think the reason I did that is because even though the content of the particular podcast that I was subscribed to was good, what I ended up finding on my podcatcher is that there were other podcasts out there that had the same level and quality of content that were produced at a much higher quality. So, it's not 2015 anymore where if you want to hear a podcast about, koala bears, you only have one option. Now you have lots and lots of options. So the worse your podcast is from an engineering standpoint, the more likelihood that you're going to end up with someone like me saying, well, I'm not going to listen to that because it's not good and I have other options.
Yes. And actually, I found a show recently, and I'll talk about it in the future, like what show it was and everything. Because anyway, but I like this show so much, but the audio needed some work, needed some help, and I was so proud of myself because normally when when there's an opportunity for me to say something like, "Hey, man, maybe you should, make your audio a little better. It's not that great." I never say that to anyone. Because I don't want to approach people like that because everyone's reaction is just going to be negative. It's going to be they're going to get defensive and angry, and I don't want to make people angry, so I just let their show be what it is. But
I disagree. Well, I don't. It's not a hard disagree. It's probably like a soft disagree. But I have told people shows that I find have a unique value that I can't find anywhere else. I have reached out to them and said, "Hey, FYI, I love your show, but ... and then I'll include something." And I have to say that I've done that enough times that most of the reception has been pretty positive. Only one time did one person just kind of, they weren't mean, but they were just like, this is my process. I really can't afford to do anything else, so this is the way it's going to be. But everybody else, they really did seem to make an effort to try to make their show sound better.
Okay. Well, so what I was getting at was I actually approached this show, the host, and I said something similar to what you said. Hey, I love the show. It's great. And by the way, I'm an audio engineer and podcast producer, and the audio. I'm curious what you're doing. I forget how I worded it. I was like, I'm curious of your production because it could sound a little better or something. Whatever I said, but the guy wrote me back, and we had a good conversation about it, and he's interested in making his show sound better. So I was happy about that. It's like, wow, I could actually help someone.
Yeah, I apologize, by the way. I misunderstood what you said. I thought you said you didn't contact him, but you said you did.
Well, no, in the past, I've thought many times about contacting people, but I never would because I didn't even want to bother getting into anything. But this time, because I liked the show so much, I had to say something. So maybe that's an interesting distinction.
My biggest complaint is with Bandrew's show. I feel that he doesn't say doobly-doo enough.
He's a trendsetter. Let's just call it what it is. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is Chris's goodie bag, which was episode 158. So we're not going to talk about that. Oh, and then the next one was Black Friday ridiculousness. I gave a big discount off of Podcast Engineering School. And the next daily goodie was when a podcast host is a guest on other shows. When a podcast host is a guest on other shows. And here's the thing. This was my whole point. When someone hosts a podcast, usually they have a decent mic and they have a decent setup. Look, even if it's just an ATR 2100 plugged into their computer via USB, right? That's pretty good. But on my show and mostly my clients' shows, they will have guests on, and the guest will host their own podcast. But when they come on the show as a guest instead of a host, for some reason they think it's totally okay to lay on the couch with an iPad with crappy earbuds and crappy internet connection, crappy Wi-Fi. And it's like I don't know what it is. It's like maybe they just want to be the rock star for a minute and I can lay on my couch, be a guest on a show. But it's like, dude, you host a podcast. You know how important audio is, and you probably have your microphone set up 15 feet away from the couch. But instead of using a good audio, you're going to join the crappiest way possible. It kind of got on my nerves a few times, so I wrote this post about it. And why is that, Ralph? Can you tell me, please?
Well, I must say that I am guilty of this.
Oh!
And actually, I probably was the catalyst for this post because not too long ago.
No.
I know.
No,
not too long ago. Well,
anyway.
not too long ago on the live stream, I actually wore my Bose headphones. And of course, because I'm in my head and in my Bose headphones, I don't hear that, all the noise, all the ambient noise that's going on in the room is perfectly,
right.
you
going
hear
into
all
the
that.
microphone, right?
Yeah, right. So, to me, everything sounds great. But to everybody else, it sounded horrible. And I have to say, I got a little talking to by Chris Curran at the end of that show. A little bit of a reprimand. Got sent to my room without dinner that night. But no, you're right. You're absolutely right. And it's lazy and it's awful. And it's at the end of the day, it's disrespectful. And it was disrespectful for me to do it. And I've done it more than once. Shame on me. But it is disrespectful, I think.
Yeah, with you, Ralph, it was you actually got up from the chair, walked into your kitchen, and were filling a cup with ice, and literally it was so loud in the microphone. It was like an ice machine cranking out ice, and I was like, oh my God.
Right, but the thing is, it's so stupid because the headphones are they're sound canceling. So
right.
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that.
Exactly.
Which is why it's so disrespectful.
Right.
So I apologize, Chris.
Oh, well, you already did, and I already accepted your apology, and I sent you an invoice. Okay. All right. Next daily goodie. Beware of guests connecting from a slow, bloated, and outdated office computer. Okay. Beware of guests connecting from a slow, bloated, and outdated office computer. So
I got to say, I read this daily goodie, and I really didn't understand why So
He's cut. Oh, he's doing the fake. I'm cutting out. Oh God. So here, this also came from several experiences with clients, recording episodes for clients. Like there'll be a guest who's going to join the show, and they'll be in some office in Manhattan, and like, or some big city office, and like their computer is from 1983. And they haven't restarted it since 1994, and like the network is slow, the computer is so bloated with security. It's like I now it's like one of the biggest red flags for me is like if anyone is connecting from an office like that, and I because I ask them like, where are you, like what kind of computer, and how's the internet connection speed and all that, and if they're like, oh no, it's I'm just connecting from my office computer. It's a desktop machine and all this, and it's Windows and it's really old and it's really slow. People will tell me this, and I'll be like, I cringe. But sometimes there's nothing you can do, but you just got to be aware of that. I actually, with one of these people, I asked them, when's the last time you restarted the computer? And they said, I really don't know. I just every day I use it. I don't remember the last time I restarted it. And I was like, could you restart it? They restarted it, and no joke, it literally took about 20, 25 minutes to boot up completely. I don't know why, but maybe updates or something. Anyway, just beware of guests connecting from those bloated, outdated office computers.
Well, here's a supplemental thing, which is even if you have a brand new computer, if you decide that the podcast interview is the time where you're going to defragment your hard drive and back up your hard drive to the cloud, that's probably not the right time. The other thing is, Chris, sometimes when you're interviewing someone in a corporate environment, they may have a really good computer and they may have a really good connection to the internet. But if the people next door to him in the same office are having a live video chat with like their regional office in China, they may be sucking up all that bandwidth. So in that case, that brand new computer is going to amount to nothing because you're saturating the bandwidth and the connectivity with other traffic in the office.
Right. That's definitely a concern as well. All right. Well, let's move on to the next Daily Goody from December 2nd, 2019. It's a mixing tip. This is a good one. This is a really good one. Okay. Reducing the volume of person A's loud laughing while person B is still speaking. So what I mean by that is you have a host and a guest. Let's say the host is person A, the guest is person B. Okay, now person B is the guest, and they're answering a question, they're talking. And they say something funny, and the host, who is person A, laughs really loud, like really loud right into the microphone. Okay, fine. Okay, people laugh, it's fine, but one thing you can do in post-production is reduce the volume of that person laughing, maybe even 3 dB, sometimes 6 dB, sometimes even up to 9 dB. You can bring that laugh down so it's not so disruptive of the flow, and it doesn't. So and also so you can continue to hear the guest talking while the host is laughing, right? Because that's the problem. If the laughing is so loud that you can no longer hear the guest, and maybe the guest, you missed a half of a sentence because the host was laughing. I mean, that's terrible. So you have to, that's a mixing tip, and that's a good one. I use that one a lot, actually.
So let me sum this one up. If you ever have Chris Curran on your show and he's laughing and grunting and then you gotta work that volume.
Just duck everything. Okay, terrific. All right, so next one. Oh, we're getting close to the end. This Daily Goody was about my 5 videos from the 5-week video challenge, which, by the way, we did that in the Podcasters Lounge Facebook group. If you're not a member of the Podcasters Lounge Facebook group, I mean, pull the car over right now. Wow.
Do you really need to pull the car over? Can't you just pull out your cell phone while you're driving? I mean, these are talented people we're talking to.
Jeez. All right, and the last one we're going to cover for today, and by the way, Ralph,
if anybody's going to sue me for that comment, I just want to say for the record, my name is Chris Curran, and I live in Colorado Springs.
Thank you, by the way, Ralph M. Rivera, for being here on this Daily Goody episode. It's really nice hanging out with you, and I plan on doing this for some of the Daily Goody episodes coming up, just having someone come sit in and hang out. So, all right, the last Daily Goody we're going to cover is from December 4th, 2019. Mid-word edit points. Mid-word edit points. That means editing, like making an edit in the middle of a word, or combining words in the middle instead of cutting at the beginning of the word. So this is sort of an expert tip. And you don't have to do it often, obviously, but like sometimes people will talk and they will literally screw up the beginning of a word or the end of a word, and then they'll actually restate it. But when they restate it, they don't say it, correct either on the second try. So sometimes you actually have to take the beginning part of this, the first time they say it, and the end part of the second time they say it, and try to put them together to make the edit seamless. And it really, if you do it well, it works, and no one can ever tell. Obviously, that's what makes a really good edit, is that no one can ever tell that you made the edit. But it's a rare one, but it does happen sometimes, and I'm sure most people don't ever do it. But some people don't even know that you can do it. So here's me telling you, I'm giving you permission, if you ever need to, cut in the middle of a word. It's not easy, but you could just try it. Let me know how it goes. Ralph?
We had an episode once where the word elixir was used many times because it was relevant for the content. And the person who was talking kept mispronouncing it as exceler.
Oh.
So what we ended up doing in the end is we found 3 instances where that person said elixir properly. See that I even said it wrong, where that person said elixir properly, and then there were different kind of inflections, and the timbre of the word was slightly different. And we took those 3 words and we replaced every instance of the misspelled word with the correct pronunciation. Wow. And then depending on the flow of the sentence, we debated between the 3 versions that we had.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that's tricky, and that takes a bunch of work, but I'm sure it ended up pretty good, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this is awesome. So that's it for the Daily Goodies we're going to cover in this episode. We're going to be back next week with a great guest, Chris Williams. I can't. By the way, for next week's episode, I recorded it like about 4 or 5 days ago. Chris Williams, he mentioned a plugin that was his favorite plugin, and I literally went and downloaded the trial version of it. And I literally listened to it. I probably played around with it for about 60 seconds. And I was like, oh my God. And I literally went right back to the website and bought this thing. And it wasn't inexpensive, but it's just, I mean, I don't really want to. Well, no, in a Daily Goody a few days ago, I wrote about it. It's Aquamarine from Acoustica. But anyway, Chris Williams next week. Ralph M. Rivera, thank you for sitting in here with me.
Thank you, my friend.
Is there any place that people can go online to heckle you and to abuse you and to love you?
Send any emails that you want to send that are insulting to me to chris@podcastengineeringschool.com.
Wow. Okay, terrific. Well, Ralph, thanks again,
Can
brother.
I mention something about podcast editors?
Of course.
So one little beef I had with you with the prior episode was you had mentioned that when you're getting hired by clients, that you should include everything that you're going to include in your services. Is it okay if I do this, Chris?
Oh yeah. No, I know what you're going to say, but yeah, this is good.
Yeah. You said to include every service that you're going to include, but also include the services that aren't included. And we had a conversation offline about that. And my take on that is be explicit about the services that you're going to offer, but then also add a qualifier that says that any service that isn't explicitly included isn't included. Because if you make a list of stuff that you're not going to do, and then someone comes along and surprises you with, yeah, but what about this? Now it's a gotcha. Now it's a conversation that you don't want to have. So just include a statement that says anything that's not explicitly included is going to be not included. Just assume it's not part of the service.
Right. And so for those of you who missed that, I was talking about that when you have an agreement with a client, obviously you're going to list in the agreement everything you're going to do, and that I always have this little section that says, here are some things that are not included in this agreement, and I'll put things like, for instance, writing show notes, right? Like I don't write show notes. I just produce audio. So I would put that in there. So I would list like 4 or 5 things that are not included. And Ralph, your point, which is a really good one, is that instead of listing things that are not included in that agreement, just say, like you said, anything that's not explicitly listed here is not included. And that covers everything. And any questionable thing is not included. So that's way better. So thank you, Ralph.
Thank you, Chris.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. So happy that you're listening to this show, and hopefully you're enjoying this show. And I'm happy to be part of your podcast production learning experience. And, by the way, keep in mind, if you ever want me to listen to anything or check out anything, send me an email or ping me on social media. Anyway, and there's a lot of cool new stuff coming up too, which I'll announce very soon. So thanks for listening, everybody. Thank you, Ralph. Thank you, Barry.
Sound great.
Who's not here today. Oh, sound great. Sound great. Thank you.
What an anemic sound great. Oh my goodness. I think, hold on a second. Hold on. You can't send off like that. The audience deserves more. Come on.
I don't. So here's the thing.
I'm going to give you.
On these Daily Goody episodes.
Daddy Ralph is talking now. Daddy Ralph is talking now. All right. You're going to do a sound great, and you're going to do it, and you're going to do it right. All right. I'm going to give you a 3 countdown. You ready? This is how we're going to end the show. All right. Ready?
But I don't.
1, 2. Don't make me angry. Don't make me stop this car, Chris Curran. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Sound great, dude.